Am I the asshole for canceling a wedding gift when the wedding was canceled? My husband's sister was supposed to be married in September. I chose an item from the registry, but the exact item she had added had a weird detail. She had explicitly mentioned previously needing option A, but on the registry, she accidentally listed option B. So I asked her to make sure I got what she needed. So she knew exactly what I was planning to gift. Sadly, they have now broken up. The gift hadn't shipped yet anyway, so I canceled it. This past week, she reached out to me about it. Since she knew I was purchasing it and we live far away, she was concerned that it had been delivered but someone had stolen it. When I explained that I had canceled it, she was pretty upset. My mother-in-law has now reached out to us about it and feels that I was unkind to cancel the order. She feels that since my sister-in-law is clearly going through a difficult time and the holidays are approaching, it would have been more appropriate to let the gift reach her anyway. Obviously, these are unfortunate circumstances, but this was a substantial gift, $700, and pretty well above the threshold of what I'd normally spend for a typical holiday gift. Before it comes up, I'll mention short and sweet that my husband is in the military and currently deployed, so that's why he isn't a big piece in this puzzle, and I'm soloing this awkward adventure. So the question is, am I the asshole for canceling the wedding gift when the wedding was canceled? I don't know that I've ever run into this situation, but my gut says that hell no, you're not the asshole. If the wedding doesn't happen, the gift doesn't happen, right? I mean, if you went, let's say if it was canceled at the altar, if you went to the wedding, brought a gift, at the wedding falls apart, wouldn't you on the way out the door just take your gift with you? Or is that an asshole move? I don't know. What's the protocol here? Is it different for different cultures? I've never run into this kind of thing before, thankfully. But I would think that if I was gifting a $700 item to a couple and then that couple no longer existed, the gift isn't warranted, right? At maximum, something that is half the value of that gift would be warranted. Unless there was some kind of strong emotional tie between the gift giver and the gift receiver. In this case, it was her husband's sister. At max, maybe OP should have had a discussion with her husband first to make sure that was the right play, and then had that extra ammo of saying, well, my husband agreed, and I know that he's deployed, and I know that that's a difficult conversation to fit in. That's the only thing that I see that could have really given her some extra ammo here, but no matter what, no, not the asshole. We were going to have the wedding, but the wedding just fell apart. And now I am just broken, and the only thing that could keep me going is this pile of presents laying around, things being delivered to my doorstep still. It's the only ray of sunshine that I have each day, knowing that there will be a gift laying there instead of my significant other. It doesn't work like that. And if the protocol is for that person to still get the gift, what about other events like graduation? Somebody almost graduates. Do they get a graduation gift? The logic that makes the most sense to me is that it's a wedding gift. If there's no wedding, there's no gift. The gift was for a couple. If the couple no longer exists, neither does the gift. What do all of you think? What would you do in this situation? I would have canceled it. Absolutely. A $700 gift especially? Yeah. Refund. Am I the asshole for making my son walk the dog? Throwaway account and fake names because my wife is also on Reddit. And sorry for the long post. My wife, 39 female, and I, 42 male, have 3 sons. Alex, 15, Dylan, 11, and Jake, 8. When I was a kid, I always wanted a dog, but my parents said no. I never got the chance to get one during my 20s. But recently my interest in owning one was sparked again, so I asked my family what they thought about getting a dog. My wife wasn't enthusiastic about it, but she relented after a few weeks of me asking. Alex and Jake were excited to get one, but Dylan was immediately opposed to the idea. Dylan was always different than my other sons. He never had an interest in sports and was always more subdued than his brothers, which always had made it hard for me to connect with him. He remained opposed to the idea about getting a dog, but me and my other sons managed to wear him down until he finally relented. However, he said that if we did get a dog, he wasn't going to be interacting with it or taking care of it. It would be completely on me and his brothers. I found this ridiculous, but I agreed in the moment, hoping he would change his mind after meeting the dog. The problem is he hasn't changed his mind yet. We've had Zeus for 7 months now, and Dylan has not warmed up to him in the slightest. He doesn't play with the dog. He doesn't cuddle with him. He doesn't let Zeus into his room because he destroys stuff, and whenever he is near the dog, he just ignores him. I find this completely ridiculous. Zeus loves Dylan. He follows him around whenever he sees him and jumps on him to get his attention and play, but Dylan just isn't receptive to it. To change this, I told Dylan last week that he would be in charge of walking the dog every day after school. Dylan straight up refused and has shut down the conversation every time I bring it up. It's been a week and he hasn't walked the dog once. In my frustration, I told him that if he didn't start listening, then I wouldn't allow him to go to the comic book store anymore, and he freaked and told my wife. Now my wife is upset with me, claiming that I knew what I was getting into with this, and I knew that Dylan wouldn't be playing with the dog, but his intolerance of the dog is weird, and I refuse to entertain it any longer. My wife has been short with me ever since that conversation, and Dylan is cold with me as well. Alex is now agreeing with his mother, which is making me have second thoughts. So, Reddit. Am I the asshole? So I think we actually have to look at this a couple of different ways. Number one, Dylan straight up made abundantly clear in his lengthy disclaimer how he felt about the situation. And I think we also have to recognize that right now, some people just aren't dog people. Some people can't connect or don't want to connect with animals in that way. And there are some conditions that actually prevent people from being able to connect with animals. And because this son is different than your others, I think you have to realize that there could be something there that's more than just not interested in it. This could be a wiring thing, and you have to respect how your kids are wired. Trying to force them into areas that they're not wired for typically doesn't end well. Now, as a dad, I am all for helping my kids overcome things that they're not comfortable with, especially if it's something that they're going to encounter for the rest of their lives, no matter what. I don't know that this is one of those things. I mean, at least learning to be comfortable around dogs, even if it's uncomfortably comfortable, could be good, because you don't want someone who's so uncomfortable with animals that every time they see one, they just geek and run the other way. You don't want that. Establishing some kind of comfort there is good, but forcing him to try to have a relationship that he's not capable of creating, if he's not wired for that, just isn't going to happen. And what's going to end up happening is what has happened now. There will be drama, because you're trying to force a square peg in a round hole, and it just doesn't work like that. Now, that's easy for me to say as an outsider. Each one of my kids are wired completely differently, and as a dad, I have my frustrations in trying to make certain things happen, or trying to get them to get interested in this, or not understanding why this one thing is so difficult for them, and that's because I'm their dad. You can be very much too close to this situation and not able to see that Dylan might just be wired this way. You have already said that Dylan is vividly different than your other boys. You've already said some of the things that indicate that he is wired different, and you have to at least acknowledge that it's a possibility that he's not wired to be able to do what you're wanting him to do. It's possible. Here's the kicker. You had good intentions, so you're not a total asshole for doing this, and I think that's what we need to establish here, is that you had good intentions. It's not something that you were doing out of spite. You weren't doing this with malicious intent. You are coming from a good place. So let's refer to our new ASCON levels and see where you fit. Quick reminder, ASCON 1 is no way you should have done that. You're a terrible human being. ASCON 2 is definitely shouldn't have done that, but that doesn't make you a terrible person. ASCON 3 is you probably should have approached that differently. ASCON 4, you probably could have approached that differently. Maybe you're an asshole, maybe you're not. And I think we're at ASCON 3 here, because there was clearly a wiring difference with Dylan that either you were just too close to see or ignored and tried to force the square peg into the round hole. You probably should have approached that differently. Also, something that we need to point out here is that Dylan went and told his mom, who didn't know. And if you're going to be working on something like this, it really has to be with the blessing of your significant other, because this kind of thing might require some teamwork if you both feel strongly about doing something like this. The fact that you flew rogue on it, trying so hard to get Dylan to do this thing, and eventually he told his mom, makes you more of an asshole, because it's like you were doing it intentionally behind your spouse's back. This thing requires teamwork. You shouldn't have anything to hide here. So maybe don't do that again, and maybe just acknowledge that Dylan is wired differently, and acknowledge that that wiring difference is going to make some things much more difficult or impossible. This can be a really positive learning experience if you allow it to be, because now that you know this, you can apply that to everything moving forward. And you can more than make up for this thing that happened. If anything, you can turn it into a net positive for both of your lives by using this as a learning experience and treating the next situation completely differently. Am I the arsehole for confronting my friend who asked my partner to sleep with his wife and produce a baby? I, female 30, have been friends with a poly-married couple for a number of years. I introduced them to my partner, male 35, of 5 years. So we have all hung out and talked loads. They are both over the age of 40 and have been trying for another baby. So quite a few months ago, the male 50 texted my partner asking him to keep a secret from me. He asked my fiance to sleep with his wife to produce a baby and not inform me at all.
What?
I was informed by my partner, and I messaged the husband saying I had seen the message and I was upset and hurt that they would ask my partner to do this when they know me and my fiance are monogamous. I was then messaged saying the husband needed talking out of suicide. Since I informed them I was hurt and broken they would do this, they have stopped talking to me but keep in touch with my partner. I feel like they are making me out to be the arsehole, but am I? Since this happened, me and Alex have cut all ties and have no contact at all with them. So this number one was a follower submission, so thank you. You can submit your stories at reddit-sedit.com. We love to see your stories coming in, and we'd love to talk about them. Just know that no matter how this goes, we love and appreciate you, and we hope that you keep following us, even if I end up saying that you're the asshole. So no, you're not the arsehole at all for any of this. The fact that they tried to keep it secret speaks volumes. If it was something that they didn't think you would have an issue with or that they wanted you to know about, it wouldn't have been a secret. Thank goodness your fiance did the right thing and clued you in on it immediately. From your fiance's perspective, keeping that secret and following through with it could have been disastrous because years down the road, their kid looks just like him. And then some drama starts. I mean, cultural differences, differences in people's beliefs, differences in people's relationship structures. It's all cool, man. You know, we're just making babies over here, man. But it was only to make a baby. Yeah, I get it. It was so that they could have a baby, but there's a reason they kept it a secret. So the male friend is the one who made the ask to the other dude. And whenever OP confronted him, he was an ass about it. And then there's this message about saying the husband needed talking out of suicide. I don't know if that means that the male friend, the husband in that couple, messaged back saying that OP's fiance needed to be talked out of suicide, like he's supposedly miserable and she doesn't know. If that was the case, she probably would have explained a little bit more. It seems like that's in reference to someone else messaging and saying that that male friend, the husband in that relationship, is now suicidal because OP and OP's fiance said no. And that's a shitty thing to do. I mean, come on. It was an odd ask in the first place. They know this, otherwise it wouldn't have been a secret. Then to just further the dig by saying, because you said no, this guy's suicidal now. All of that's unreasonable. All of it. And clearly they didn't plan on being friends with you for very long, because how did they expect you to go on being friends with them when they have a kid later on in life that looks just like your fiance and be okay with it then? They don't value you as a friend. They're only worried about themselves. You need different friends, not the arsehole.